Well, we'll get started in terms of interaction in the online course. Oh, and this presentation is going to be interactive too, because I kind of like us to do what it is we're talking about, you know. So we'll be interacting a bit during this presentation. Nothing high risk, very low risk. It's generally expected that there are 4 kinds of online interaction that should happen in a course. Student to instructor interaction, obviously, and most of us are pretty comfortable with that. Student to student interaction, definitely difficult to assess and to monitor online. Student and self-reflection, that comes from just best practice in teaching and learning. And so because online, we don't often get to share the content with students and get the feedback from body language that we get in a face-to-face course. That self-reflection part becomes really important. It's almost like looking at their body language and whether they're getting it or not. So that's very important online. And then student content, which I think sometimes we take for granted online, but that's very important. So we're going to look at each of these types of interaction. We're kind of going to weave in and out because of the structure of online courses. We've got to find a balance. You could spend all day, all month, all year responding to students online. And that would result in really high quality learning because in essence you'd be mentoring every individual student. And it's a wonderful ideal, but it's just not possible with our schedules, nor should it be. This is a classroom. They're not consulting with you one-on-one. And so we have to build it like a classroom and take the pressure sometimes off of ourselves and put it back on the student or the content or the structure of the class. So we've got to find that balance. This is the foundation for any good online course which contains interaction. So these things have to be there for interaction within the course to occur in a quality way, in a manageable way. A greeting from the instructor, that seems to be just common sense, but it's amazing sometimes that doesn't occur. Expectations for participation, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Timely feedback, and that one's a biggie. It's so important, but it's so difficult. Being visible in the course, and that's kind of like the word assess. I'm going to be saying that like every other slide. And I apologize for that, but that's one of those things that has to be there. Has anybody ever taken an online course?
I did twice at Johnson County Community College, and it was teach online. It was to teach us how to do it. I dropped out twice.
Really? What was it that you hated about it?
Oh, having to do the assignments at a specific time and the structure of it. And now I'm required.
Did you see your instructor much online when you took that class?
Not really.
And
not really.
That's
there were directions, but no.
Yeah, that's something that online students really, I hear that more than anything else, and I'm actually working with a doctoral student right now, and she wanted to do some research on how students shouldn't interact with each other in an online class, and I was like, what really leads you to that? And she said, every online class I've ever had, I had to do group work, and my instructor was never there. And there were people who never did their work, and they got the same grade that I did because they compare notes. They do compare notes. And so that just really, she's like, there shouldn't be student-student interaction. And I said, well, we have to kind of step back a little bit. You know, because you had a bad experience doesn't mean they're all bad.
When you say visibility, do you mean actual visibility, or just that fact that you're present, that they can tell that you're present?
The fact that they can tell that you're present.
So you're not necessarily saying that there should be a video component.
Not necessarily. There could be. But no, but just that they know when you're going to be there and they can predict it. That they know when you're going to be there and they don't feel like they're going to fall. So, availability for questions and clarification. Have you had a student email you and want a response like in 30 seconds? And so then they email you again because you haven't answered them? And then they email you again because they're panicking and they don't know if you got their first 2 emails? So knowing that you're going to be available, but then setting boundaries boundaries, being healthy about it. I'm not here all the time. Please don't expect that. And then expectations for support beyond content. Like if they have a Blackboard question, should they address that to you? If they have a question about library use, do they address that to you? If they need help with writing, where do they go in the university support system to get that assistance? And so putting that out at the beginning of the class in a very prominent place is very helpful for students. So this is the foundation for the instructor as far as building the online course and building the community. And then the student-student interaction. Do you wonder why I have that picture up there? What is that kind of holding up the building? It's a scaffold, and that's what students can do for each other. They can scaffold each other through the content. They can hold each other up when some of those supports that aren't there in the face-to-face class, that they encounter those obstacles. They expect a face-to-face sort of interaction. It's not there. We can build in peer interaction, which will support them in the same way. They need to introduce themselves to classmates. They need to negotiate the content of the course together so that this gives us quality interaction around the content. They might even interact in terms of completing assignments. This might take some of the weight off of you, and so we'll talk about some ways to do that. And then so simple, a student lounge. I don't know if you've experienced this. I've experienced online discussion in which students go way off course. They're just so off topic. Wouldn't it be nice if they had a place to talk about the fact that the Saints are going to the Super Bowl for the very first time? Not that I'm proud of that, being from Mississippi. But wouldn't it be nice if they had a place to talk about that sort of thing, not where the content is being negotiated? And so, again, it's all about structure and predictability. They know they have a place to discuss off-task. We know that the fact that they're doing that means that they're strengthening their connections with their classmates, which is going to impact their persistence in the online course. So it's a good thing. Even though it doesn't help us achieve our course objectives, it's a very good thing to allow them to make those connections. It could be the difference between dropping that course and staying in it. So you're welcome to the students. Saying hello. In a face-to-face environment, students kind of get to know us, even though they don't talk to us maybe quite as much, but they see our body language, our expressions, the way we dress. They're thinking, hey, this is a nice, kind, enthusiastic professor. And they don't have to interact with you one-on-one to know that because they can see you. But in the online course, they can't see you. So imagine it's your first day of class, and you walk into your classroom, and you don't really have a set time, but this is the place you go to get your assignment, and you know you have an instructor. So you go into that classroom, and you pick up your assignment, and you sit there and you kind of wait for a little while, because you really like to see this person who's teaching you the class, but they never show up. And then you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and they never show up, and maybe you come back the next day, and you just wait and wait and wait. Who is this person who's teaching me, and where are they? That's what it feels like online. I'm a firm believer that we should post a welcome to our students prior to the beginning of the course. That way they walk into that classroom, metaphorically, and they see you. They see your personality. They see your credentials. That can be really important, especially if you have adult learners. They see the warmth in your tone. You might share something personal with them, not too personal, but you might share with them you've got a couple of dogs or a child, or you've been making a quilt, or you've been working in the yard, or that sort of thing. Guys, working on the car, I'm not sure what, but probably not working on a quilt. But, you could share with them something personal that they could connect with that humanizes you, that makes you approachable. And that's really important. And I think they should see that the first day of the class. Research says they need to see that the first day of the class. That's part of being visible. They should never feel like they're alone in that classroom. And then students introducing themselves. it's always nice to have a place in the class, if it's not just a discussion thread, within the first week's activities,